Did you feel that heart-pounding tension in yesterday's game against the Kansas City Chiefs? It was a roller coaster ride for sure. Greetings and welcome back to the channel. If you're enjoying our content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Let's grow this Raiders community together. Now, let's dive deep into all the action, the highs, the lows, and what's really happening with the Raiders offense. So grab your favorite snack and let's get into it. All right, let's talk about the game. The Raiders started off looking promising. 10 points on their first two drives. That's right, they kicked off strong, marching right down the field and scoring a touchdown on the opening drive. You could feel the energy. But then, things went south quickly. They followed up with another decent drive but fell short of a second touchdown. It had me thinking, could this be the game where everything turns around? But here's the catch. It feels like we're running into some serious issues with Luke Getsy's offensive scheme. It seems a bit limited, to say the least. Some of those play calls, just plain confusing. Like that second and long play where they ran an outside zone to the right with Zamir White. I mean, come on. They had 4 players lined up to the left, including an extra offensive lineman and a tight end. Why run to the weak side? It's like watching a movie where the ending is just a letdown. And let's talk about Aidan O'Connell for a second. I genuinely don't think he's a bad quarterback. It's just that he's not being given the right tools to succeed. It feels like Getsy isn't teaching the quarterbacks how to make adjustments based on what they see on the field. He's not even giving them the option to switch plays when the defense looks off. That's a huge red flag. We've seen this approach fail with the Bears, and now it's happening to us. There are too many small issues, players not lining up properly, taking the wrong steps, and O'Connell not making changes at the line. I watched every snap, and he didn't make a single adjustment. When a play doesn't work, it's easy to blame the quarterback, but if the running back isn't suited for an outside zone run, that's on the coaching staff too. There was even a cutback lane that could have been exploited if Zamir White had read the defense better. On that particular play, they managed to pick up about 5 or 6 yards, but let's be real, that's not Zamir White's strength. This whole concept felt off from the start. Then we had our second drive where we ended up settling for a field goal. It was 3rd and 13, and what do? Run a screen pass that didn't work at all. That was one of our first big mistakes and started shifting the momentum away from us. Now, let's touch on Antonio Pierce for a moment. I think he deserves some questioning too. Our third drive came in the second quarter with just 1 minute and 57 seconds left on the clock. This is a crucial moment, folks. It's not just about play calling, it's about making the right decisions. If I were the head coach, even of a high school team, I'd have to choose one of 2 strategies. Push the ball deep and try to score a touchdown, or run the clock down. You can't be wishy-washy. You need to make a solid decision and stick with it. So, on that very first play with 1 minute and 57 seconds left in the first half, the Raiders ran a sweep pass to Jakobi Meyers. What happened? The play got blown up immediately. Chris Jones made a big play to stop us right there. After that, we ran our next play with just 1 minute and 16 seconds left. This is where it gets messy. We gained no yards on first down, and the clock ran down to 1 minute and 16 seconds before we tried to run the ball again. Spoiler alert, that didn't work either. If you're going to call a run play in that situation, you better give the ball to your best running back. Amir Abdullah? I'd argue he's more like the 4th best running back on the roster. The guy just isn't effective, right? We need someone who can actually run the football. On that second down play, Abdullah missed a huge cutback lane. If he had hit that lane, he could have potentially gained 30 yards. Just imagine the momentum shift that could have provided. Instead, we ran the ball, and nothing came of it. Then the Chiefs called a timeout with 1 minute and 11 seconds left. This is where the decision-making gets even murkier. The Raiders ran a little sweep play to Jakobi Meyers, which didn't work. On second down, another run attempt that didn't pan out either. It looks like Antonio Pierce decided to run the clock down, which raises some eyebrows. You can't mix up your strategy like that. On 3rd and long, we finally decide to throw the ball, but it's incomplete. That stops the clock and gives the Chiefs a whole timeout, plus over a minute left. The decision-making just doesn't add up. You either run the ball or push it downfield. Don't do both and expect it to work. And speaking of decision-making, let's talk about Gardner Minshew. Some might say he's a bad quarterback. And honestly, I get where they're coming from. But it's not all on him. The scheme really holds him back, and he seems to have lost confidence. On that 3rd and 8, Minshew faced a blitz from the left. He needed to throw the ball quickly to Trey Tucker, And while he did throw it, Trey didn't even look for it. I'll show you that play in a moment. As a coach, I'd tell my quarterback, if no one's open, don't just throw the ball away. Minshew threw it out of bounds when he could have taken the sack instead. This whole scenario screams lack of awareness on his part. But honestly, it's also a coaching issue. That timeout right before the play should have been a moment for guidance. The coaching staff should have told him, hey, if we throw the ball and it doesn't work, just take the sack and force the Chiefs to use their last timeout. But we didn't do that. And what happened? We got stopped and had to punt. The Chiefs marched right down the field and kicked a field goal. That timeout? Huge game changer. They managed to pick up about 25 yards. And because they stayed in bounds, they didn't waste any time running down the field. Let's move on to the next drive. The Raiders had the ball again, and guess what? The Chiefs blitzed Minshew again. This time, they blitzed from his right. He rolled to the left and threw deep to Trey Tucker. But guess what? Trey stopped in the middle of his route. Minshew threw it over his head. I think teams have figured out that when Minshew is in this system, all they have to do is blitz him. And he doesn't have a solid response. The Chiefs do this more than most teams in the NFL, and it's clearly working against us. We need quick plays designed for when a blitz comes in. If we know it's coming off the edge, we need quick hitters so that a guy can catch the ball and make a play. Maybe shake off a tackle or something. When you face a blitz, if you can make one defender miss, that could turn into a huge play. But let's be honest, have the Raiders had any plays like that this year? The only two I can think of are from Brock Bowers, where he made an incredible catch against the Steelers, and another from Week 1 when Alexander Mattison caught a pass in the backfield, made a couple of guys miss, and took it to the house. This is a big issue for our offense. We don't have players who can create those big moments. Even worse, our quarterback and scheme just aren't working together. Honestly, it feels like the Raiders' season is over. I hate to say it, but it's true. The scheme we're using just isn't effective. This is why you shouldn't hire coordinators with a track record of failure. Look at Luke Getsy. Hiring him was probably one of the worst decisions you could make. You could find random scouts off the street, and they'd likely have more success than him. Let's dive into some specific examples. After the Chiefs punted the ball to us, we had a nice return and picked up 15 extra yards, starting around the 37-yard line. The Raiders strung together some decent plays on that drive, but there were a few duds too. They managed to drive down to the 4-yard line, picking up about 32 yards along the way. But then we hit the dreaded wall. 1st and goal at the 4, and we have to settle for a field goal. Just what we needed, right? Let's take a moment to appreciate this. When we reached the goal line, we didn't have any big plays. We just kept running into the wall over and over again. All right, fast forward to the 4th quarter. After falling behind 20-13, the Raiders had another chance to pull it together. But once again, the offense couldn't capitalize. It's like we're living in a time loop. Every drive feels the same. So when the Raiders got the ball again, it was pretty much do or die. But the play calling? Total disaster. It felt like a comedy of errors. Nothing was working. And every time we got a good play, it was followed by 3 plays that went nowhere. With just over 3 minutes left, we faced a crucial 4th down situation. I mean, come on, you can't waste this chance. But instead of going for it, we settled for a punt. Talk about a confidence killer. And there you have it, folks. The Raiders lost to the Chiefs yet again. I get it. We were all hoping for better. But let's face it, this coaching staff has to figure things out if we're ever going to have a shot at turning the season around.